series data, right? So if we actually use those the GLM of the indicated by this red line here, then we lose a lot of information. So in a recent study out of the Reed Montague's lab, what they did was they showed some pictures. This was with children with autistic spectrum disorder. And what they did was they showed some pictures of the subjects and pictures of others. And there's a region called middle cingulate cortex that is known to be related to some processing of self-images. And they extracted a time series of this region from children with autistic spectrum disorder and children with no ASD. And they just used without doing the general linear model, they just used the raw time series data as the predictors of a machine learning algorithm. And they could classify those kids with autistic spectrum disorder from normal kids with relatively high classification accuracy, about 0.77. And in my study in Reed Montague's lab, we also use this kind of approach to produce some fMRI-based predictors of political ideology. So in the U.S., the liberal versus conservative is a pretty important social issue, right? Like Obama versus Romney, or Hillary Clinton versus the Donald Trump, right? So what we did was we showed some emotional pictures to subjects that have nothing to do with politics. Some disgusting pictures, some threatening pictures, some positive pictures, and we showed that the brain responses to disgusting pictures could produce neuropredictors of political orientation. Isn't that interesting? Because the stimuli have nothing to do with politics. So the findings strongly suggest that our political orientation or political decisions are strongly driven by our emotional processing. And what I want to say out of this study was, we, similar to what Lu et al. Did, we extracted the time series from their brains, when we showed that with just 20 seconds of the data, combined with the machine learning, we could actually pretty accurately classify liberals from the conservatives with about 0.85 of area under the curve. So let me conclude the study by saying maybe we can, by using those computational tools, and by addressing those three major challenges and other challenges, we might be able to translate some of the research into practice. And there are so many other important questions and challenges. One of the challenges is how we can share the code and data, because as I said, some people need more education and training, and it takes more time for them to use those computational tools. So to really benefit and to really help each other, it's important to share the data and code. And education is another important problem, because to train a researcher who has clinical expertise and also expertise in quantitative tools and imaging and genetic, so it's almost impossible to train someone who knows everything that I listed in this that I mentioned in this talk. So essentially, I think it's really important to collaborate across multiple disciplines, like psychology, neuroscience, computer science, and statistics, and genetics. I think each people in each field can mutually benefit from each other through the collaboration. So And also, there's a lot of serious work to be done, like whether we like test reliability has been done for traditional measures like IQ scores. For many of the measures that I mentioned in this talk, it has to be demonstrated, and the validity and reliability has to be checked. So there's a lot to do, but at the same time, as many people agree, this is an exciting field. With a lot of young people, there's a lot of things that young people can do. So I'm gonna skip what's the direction of my lab. So, and thanks so much for your attention. Yeah. Any questions?
Yes, may I ask a question? I have an experience to collect the data through the survey. However, I always face the correction error because I collect the data from my students. They have no warranty. So how will you please give me any suggestions to avoid this correction error?
So what kind of data are you referring to? Maybe I missed it. Behavior data.
Yes.
Okay.
Because I have some experience to publish my papers in behavior finance, but the data is it reliable? That means that I correct the data. They have some problem.
Okay. I don't exactly know what kind of data it is, so it's hard to say. But the thought that occurred to me was if the data is so dependent on the experimenters, then maybe the effect size of what you want to get out of the task may not be as high as ideal. That's one possibility. The second possibility is, actually that's a really important aspect for running a study. And I also ask my RAs and lab manager to motivate the subject as much as possible. So just like the RAs are waiters, and if you go to a restaurant, the waiters is in the U.S. they are getting tip, right? So they actually work really hard to please the customers. So I ask them to really do their best to please the subjects, and make them feel comfortable and pleasant in the laboratory settings. So that's what I ask to my RAs to do. But if you have different readers, whether when you run your subjects versus when the RAs run subjects, maybe we can talk after the talk, what kind of data you are referring to. But I don't think I have a solution for that, but I think that's a tough question.
Question. Actually, I have two questions. The first question is related to the behavior data and also the neural data. So I think there are several different ways. Maybe somebody already have, for instance, depression or drug abuse, and then we measure, we scan their brains and see these things. Another way, perhaps, like maybe in your experiment, you have I don't know whether you do the neural image of that one, but you mentioned that the emotion of the participants really predict actually political views. So maybe afterwards you have in the debriefing session, you ask them to actually do some questionnaires. Is that the way we do it? By the way, is that the way we do the study?
Yes,
yeah.
Yes.
So first we scan about the emotions, and and then the questionnaires.
Yeah, right,
Yeah.
right, right.
There's another way is also you mentioned in your talk is about the tasks. Yeah, so, well, that person in brain scan, you already do some tasks. So meanwhile, you collected some actual behavior data. Are there some other ways?
Other ways like?
Yeah, so there's three ways. One is, he has a kind of pre-sitters, like he has the depression, has the drug abuse. This already has a kind of, we can use some psychometric skills. We already connect that kind of data. Another way is what you do in the political experiment. Maybe another way is during the task. During the brain scan, we have some tasks. So are there other ways to measure the behavior? This is my first question. Now I'm thinking about the behavior data, neural data. How many combinations they could have? So in the future, when I design my experiments, I have some choices. Okay, this is the first question. The second question is one of the slides that you showed to us is about the traditional actual brain mapping approach. And then you also showed us the same slide is the brain smart approach. So actually, I'm quite interested in, because if we want to predict something, yes, I think it's basically the second one. It helps us to predict. However, do I understand correctly? First, we have to do something about the traditional brain mapping. Otherwise, because if we do not have that part of the information, it's difficult for us to build a model based on the brain neural measures that could help us to predict. Do I understand you correctly?
We have to analyze the brain for each subject first.
Yes.
But then,
To build up the model.
yeah, but to the group analysis, these are two different approaches. So you are correct that we first analyze each subject's data, each subject's brain data first,
Yeah.
and then how to integrate, how to combine those individuals' brain data into the symptom scores here is these two approaches, they are different. So does that answer?
Yeah, I just would want to know that, because maybe we are not doing the same research question. For some of the research question, like I'm interested in metaphors. Maybe there are not such kind of modeling, so I first have to do the modeling first, and then we want to do the prediction. Then
Right. So
yeah.
to do this machine learning approach, are you asking do we have to do GLM to do the machine learning?
Yeah.
No, that's
Not-
not the
not
case. Yeah,
necessary.
we don't have to do GLM at the second level to do the machine learning.
Okay.
These are two separate approaches, so we don't have to.
Understand. How about my first question?
So the first question is how to map the behavior in brain.
Yeah.
So I don't think I understand. I didn't understand the question correctly. So you're saying depression and anxiety are predefined or pre-existing characteristics, right?
Yeah.
And if we use brain imaging to study their brains, are you saying how are we going to connect their brains and behaviors, or?
Yeah, actually, I'm not asking about the kind of specific
Sorry.
thing. I'm trying to understand how many different ways to combine neural data and brain data.
I don't think I know the answer.
Yeah. So actually, there are ways that we can collect some behavior data while we do the brain scanning.
Right.
So that's the task base.
Right.
And we also have the another one is that after the brain scanning, we get the information from the brain, and then we give them some questionnaire to do whatever, what you do in your political view study.
Right,
And then that's another kind of data. And some people, maybe we want to compare, for instance, the people who already have the drug abuse and the people who do not. And that is some data that we collected from the psychometric skills.
But I don't think they are different. I think they are the same. Are you saying getting
They are
the
the
survey data first or after the imaging is different, or?
No, I'm talking about how to actually connect
Brain and behavior.
brain behavior.
Right,
So
right.
now, after I listened to your talk, I noticed I heard 3 times. Are there more? I just asked this.
So, I don't know, I feel everything is the same because like for depression and anxiety patients, we know they are depressed and anxiety, and we know they are depressed and anxious because we ask them those questions.
Yes.
So I think it's the same as asking their political ideology after the brain scan by surveys.
In general, they
Yeah,
are.
in general, I think these are the same anyway. So, but
Okay.
yeah, how we assess their brain, how we assess their behaviors, there can be multiple ways that we can use interviews or we can use surveys or maybe we can talk after the talk.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for Dr. An's inspiring talk. Yeah, if you are still interested, in some more detail about this, theme, yeah, do come back tomorrow. Yeah, we have a workshop. Yeah, for 3 hours workshop tomorrow, not in the same venue, but in LG 303. Yeah, in the main building. Okay. Thank you so much. We have yeah. Dr. An. Thank you so much. Yeah. Let's take a picture. We'll be back.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you so much.